floating in freezing water just off the coast of South Africa. The ocean is strangely quiet. A few minutes ago, great white sharks were patrolling this coastline like they always have. For millions of years, they always have. Now they're gone. Not because they were hunted, not because they died, because something scared them badly enough to make them leave. Think about that for a second. An animal that can detect a single drop of blood from hundreds of meters away, that has survived every mass extinction on this planet, just abandoned its own home. So, what on earth, or in the ocean, could do that? And here's the bigger question hiding inside that one. If something can terrify the ocean's most famous predator, what does that tell us about what it actually means to be at the top of the food chain? Most people assume it's simple: biggest teeth, fastest body, most kills, but that's not what nature shows us. Here's the surprising part. The most successful predators on Earth don't always kill the most. Sometimes they barely have to attack at all. Their greatest weapon is something much quieter. To understand that, we need to leave the ocean entirely. Picture yourself standing beneath the canopy of the Amazon rainforest. Sunlight barely reaches the ground. The air smells like wet soil and rotting leaves. Somewhere above you, a howler monkey screams. Something rustles in the branches. A sloth moves slowly across a branch, about 30 meters up. It has no idea it's already being watched. Perched motionless, higher in the canopy, sits a female harpy eagle. She weighs about 8 kilograms. Her wingspan stretches nearly 2 meters. She isn't circling, she isn't chasing, she's waiting. Researchers studying harpy eagles in Belize found that roughly 70% of their diet is sloths and monkeys. But what's fascinating isn't what they eat, it's how they hunt. The eagle watches. She studies every branch, every gap between leaves, every possible escape route. Then, in a single instant, she commits. There's almost no warning, no dramatic chase, just one explosion of feathers and a shaking branch. Then silence. But here's where things get interesting. The forest doesn't go quiet because the eagle attacked. It goes quiet because every animal in that forest knows she might attack. Researchers watching monkey troops noticed entire groups changing their routes. For days after a harpy eagle hunted in an area, the predator left, the fear stayed. Which raises a bigger question. If patience and control work better than speed in the rainforest, what happens when that strategy belongs to an animal nearly 3 meters long? Now imagine standing on Komodo Island, Indonesia. The air is dry and hot, the ground is cracked. Tall grass rustles in every direction. Something moves through the brush. At first you think it's a fallen tree, then it blinks. The Komodo dragon doesn't chase its prey. It doesn't need to. For years, scientists believed their mouths were full of deadly bacteria, that their bite caused fatal infections. That was the story, clean, simple, easy to explain. But that wasn't what was actually happening. In 2009, biologist Brian Fry and his team discovered something that changed the entire picture. Komodo dragons don't just have bacteria, they have venom glands. Glands that release compounds that lower blood pressure and prevent blood from clotting. The dragon bites once. Then it waits. Imagine being the deer. You escaped. You're bleeding, but you're moving. You feel like you survived. Hours pass. Your legs grow heavy. The world starts to tilt. And behind you, following your tracks with absolute certainty, is the dragon. Patient. Certain. Unhurried. The hunt was over the moment it began. Most people imagine apex predators as creatures of speed and violence. But that's not what's happening here. The dragon lets biology finish the job. Now picture a completely different world. You're walking home through the edge of Mumbai after midnight. Apartment buildings on one side, dense forest on the other. The streetlights flicker. You feel completely alone. Except you're not. A leopard is watching you. The remarkable thing isn't that leopards live alongside one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. It's that most of those millions of people never see them at all. Instead of fleeing or attacking, leopards in Mumbai did something extraordinary. They changed their schedule. Researchers found that urban leopards shifted their active hours almost entirely to between midnight and 4 in the morning, the window when human streets go quiet. They began hunting rats and dogs instead of deer. They learned to drag kills up into trees where they couldn't be found. The forest didn't separate from the city. The leopard simply learned to use the city like another kind of forest. The most dangerous predator isn't always the strongest. Sometimes it's the most adaptable. But here's where the entire story changes. Everything we've seen so far happens on land. Now we're going into the water. Picture the Pantanal wetlands of Brazil, the largest tropical wetland on the planet. Capybaras graze along the riverbank. Caimans float just below the surface like drifting logs. The water looks calm, beautiful, safe. Then a spotted head appears at the edge of the bank, a jaguar. Most cats avoid water. Jaguars practically own it. Researchers have documented jaguars swimming rivers, diving beneath the surface, and pulling caimans, ancient reptiles with armored hides and powerful jaws, out of the water in less than a minute. But what makes them extraordinary isn't the kill itself, it's the bite. Instead of targeting the throat like lions and tigers, jaguars often aim directly for the skull. One precise bite through bone, directly into the brain. Instant, decisive, no struggle. Their bite is the strongest, pound for pound, of any living big cat. But here's the fascinating part. The morning after a jaguar hunts along a riverbank, capybaras graze somewhere else. Birds land in different trees. Even the caimans reposition where they rest. One jaguar, one hunt, and the behavior of an entire ecosystem shifts. The pattern is becoming clear now. Predators don't just remove animals from ecosystems, they reorganize them. Now picture Alaska, Brooks Falls, thousands of salmon leaping through white water. Brown bears crowd the river. Most people see chaos. The bears see opportunity. A fully grown coastal grizzly can weigh more than 500 kilograms. It can sprint faster than most racehorses. But speed isn't what makes it the most successful large predator in North America. What makes the grizzly extraordinary is this: it refuses to specialize. One day it's catching salmon mid-leap. The next it's digging roots from frozen ground. The next it's climbing to reach a beehive. The next it's rolling boulders to find insects underneath. Nature rewards flexibility, and no land predator demonstrates that better until we return to the ocean. Picture yourself beneath the surface off the coast of Seal Island, South Africa. Above you, a Cape fur seal is making a run for open water. Somewhere below, out of sight, a great white shark is calculating, not chasing, calculating. The angle, the distance, the timing. Then it launches upward. The attack happens so fast, traveling at speeds up to 40 kilometers per hour from below, that both shark and seal often explode completely out of the ocean. For decades, this was considered one of the most formidable hunting strategies on the planet. Great whites ruled these waters. Researchers came from around the world to study them. Then 2 killer whales arrived. Researchers eventually gave them names: Port and Starboard. In 2017, a great white shark washed ashore near Gansbai. Its liver was missing. Then another, then another. Every wound looked nearly identical. At first, no one could explain it. Then researchers pieced it together. The killer whales were working as a team. They would position themselves to flip the shark upside down, triggering a state called tonic immobility, a kind of involuntary paralysis that sharks enter when inverted. The shark stopped moving. The orcas removed the liver, the most energy-dense organ in the shark's body, with surgical precision. Everything else was left behind. And then something remarkable happened. The sharks disappeared. Not just from that area. Entire stretches of coastline that great whites had patrolled for generations went empty. Scientists tracked individual sharks that fled and stayed gone for months. Not because every shark had been killed, because the survivors remembered. Think about that for a second. Fear traveled faster than the killer whales themselves. But perhaps the most surprising apex predator in this story isn't swimming or flying or hiding in tall grass. It's standing where you are right now, humans. Most people assume we became the planet's dominant predator because of weapons. Spears, traps, eventually rifles. That's only part of the story. Researchers studying ecosystems across 6 continents found that our influence reaches far beyond the animals we actually hunt. Mountain lions avoid hiking trails even when no humans are present on them. Bears shift feeding times around human schedules. Lions alter their movement patterns based on the sound of human voices. Leopards, as we already saw in Mumbai, become more nocturnal. Fish in rivers with regular human activity migrate differently. Sharks reroute away from coastlines with frequent boat traffic. Just our presence, the mere suggestion that we might be near, changes how every other species on Earth behaves. The same pattern we saw in the Amazon, in Indonesia, on the Pantanal riverbank, in the Alaskan River, and in the freezing waters off South Africa. The greatest predators don't simply kill, they change decisions. The harpy eagle reshapes the forest without spreading a single feather. The Komodo dragon wins before the prey even understands it lost. The jaguar empties a riverbank it may not visit again for days. The killer whale clears an ocean. And humans reorganize the behavior of nearly every living thing on the planet. From the way apex predators hunt to the routes fish take through rivers we've never set foot in. Maybe that's the real lesson hiding inside all of these hunters. The most dangerous predator isn't always the one with the biggest teeth. It's the one that makes every other animal change what it does before the hunt has even begun. And once you notice that pattern, you start wondering whether predators and prey are really as different as we've always assumed.